Hello everyone, welcome to our second episode of the South Side. We are joined once again by Gaz and I. We're also joined by the fourth member of South Side who's otherwise been silent up to this point, Danny, or as some people know him, Duds. And we have our first guest of the podcast in Charlotte from the Lincolnshire Longhorns. Who's making noises?
Sorry, I forget it's really sensitive. Sorry. Why is Danny called Duds, by the way?
It's a good question, Danny. Why are you called Duds?
I think it came from. Is there someone called Dudley in Harry Potter?
Yeah.
I don't know why that was linked to me. I think it was like an Xbox gamer tag with Dudders, and then it's just now Duds.
Okay.
There you go.
I just wanted to know the
Yeah,
name.
it's been lost.
Lore.
The origin story's gone.
Okay. Well, there you go. Today's episode is all about Division 1. So we're going to try and take a very early look at what the landscape of Division 1 will look like next year. There are so many teams that could be joining. We've tried to pick out the teams we think will most likely join BAFA going forward. There are a host of teams that we might not mention because we don't know about them. If there are any teams that you know of, that you're a part of, that you think will be joining BAFA next year, reach out, let us know. We'll try and build as good a picture as we can with the information that we've got to hand. Before we dive into that, however, Duds, would you like to do a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Danny. I think I've been playing since 2009. I started playing five-a-side contact for Boxwolf back then. Got a bit too old for that, and we didn't have like an adult team or a junior kitted team, so went and played for Watford Cheetahs for their, I think there was junior kitted, and then for the adult kitted team for a bit, and then move over to train for Oxford Saints for a little bit, and then kind of gave up contact, and then had a break for a few years, and then Callum messaged me on Facebook saying we're starting an adult flag team. I think that was around 2018, 2017. And yeah, been playing for Wolves since then. So played receiver, DB, quarterback. So yeah.
And verging on being the all-time appearance leader, probably will surpass Cal next year.
Yeah. Unless we can get Cal to come back, probably will pass him next year.
We'll never say never. Never know. We'll be in the National in 2 years' time.
Yeah, that's true.
You never know. And Charlotte, would you like to introduce yourself as well as our first guest?
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you for the honour of inviting me on. I feel like Lincolnshire, we don't fit like not quite south, not quite north, but like bang in the middle. But yes, no, thank you for having me. Yeah, so I've been playing as long as Gaz. Were you at my first training session with the Longhorns? I think you were.
I think we started playing the first season, didn't we? Together. Yeah. I think I turned up to the
like
rookie
October
sessions.
2022, maybe.
I don't know if you made it down for the rookie sessions that Longhorn had, but I was at those. I think I joined maybe 2-3 weeks at Longhorns before you.
Yeah, it was great because I messaged a page and I said, "Is this a sport for men and women?" And they went, "Yeah." And I went, "You have a woman?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Cool." Turned up and they're like, "She's not playing anymore." And I was like, "Brilliant." So for my first season, it was me plus a bunch of boys, which is great. But it was great. The Longhorns never made me feel left out or anything. But yeah, I've been playing for the Longhorns since then. In my first or second season, I joined the Leeds Samurai women's team through connections with we were in their division at one point on Ruth Frazier.
You literally got recruited on the sideline.
Yeah, Ruth Frazier and Holly Clegg said to me, "Hey, you're really tall, and we need that on our team. Would you like to come and play with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Played with Leeds Samurai, and in my first season, we won the plate, which was amazing. Played for them for a few years, and unfortunately, this year they've had to back out of the women's season for not enough players. So I've just joined the Leicester Huntsman women's team. Played in lots of tournaments and events and things for a long time. And I'm now the Lincolnshire Longhorns defensive coordinator. That's my new job title. So, yes, very exciting.
Very prestigious.
Sure. I know. And I'm still only one of 2 women on our 3 women. Sorry, we've recruited another one.
To be fair, that's what Gaz's introduction prior to you joining our conversation and being part of this was that you basically travel for flag everywhere, anywhere, play it in all forms at every opportunity. So it seemed like a pretty good fit.
I refed the Masters tournament last weekend that Rudy from Nola ran, and I've never been so wet in my entire life. It was us and the Longhorns reffing, and it just poured with rain all day. It was horrific, but it was a great time. Yeah, I'll ref, I'll play. Not old enough to play in the Masters tournament yet, but I was fine to ref.
Well, we can shout out one of our receivers, Paul Adams, who did play in that tournament. I believe he was on the winning team.
He was.
Oh, was he with the is it the Celtics? Celtics that won, I think.
No, he was with Five Guys.
Five Guys.
Yeah.
Oh, Alan Mead. He is like it's textbook quarterbacking, really. Like if you went, can somebody just do? Yeah, you just go and watch Alan Mead.
Exactly. Right. So we will dive in just a second to looking at what Division 1 is going to look like for what we think Division 1 is going to look like for the coming year.
I'm going to caveat this with, we will be wrong.
Yes.
But that's the point of a podcast, guys, to be wrong. But we will be back in just a second. Okay, so we have done a bit of due diligence. When I say we, I say Gaz has done a bit of due diligence, pulling together lots of information about Div 1 from this year, from the start of the season, during the season, and then looking at some of the teams that we know a little bit about, and has created a couple of graphics that we can look at to discuss what we think the Division 1 landscape may look like next year. There are so many open questions. We will go through as many of them as we can. This will probably be a very free-flowing conversation. But before we start diving into that, Gaz, do you want to just give us a summary of those graphics that you've created before we show them on screen?
Yeah, so where I've got the teams from is we've had a couple of tournaments in the south recently with teams that you don't see in BAFA. So that was one source of information, plus a couple of the teams I know from in my Lincolnshire Longhorns day. I will also say I've made this with the assumption that no outlaw teams joined BAFA. And also Clyde Comets dropped from Scotland this year. And I'm saying that going off previous years, like happened with Berkshire Renegades, they're not going to be allowed to return. And we know from playing them that Surrey Stingers aren't going to return. But I've said every other team returns.
Yeah, that is a perfect way to move on to our first graphic. And I think the key point here, and I'll pass over to you guys shortly, but I think the key point is we don't know how many teams are going to join, and therefore we don't know the structure that BAFA are going to select, let alone who is going to appear in what division, or what divisions are going to appear and what they're going to be named. The teams in yellow are teams that we've selected that we think are likely, obviously not guaranteed, are likely to join. And as Gaz was saying, Berkshire Renegades have been in the South Division 1 in previous years. They had to pull out of multiple game days last season, which barred them from entry this season. We are assuming they will be back. In turn, Margate Krakens attended our tournament Turf War back in March, and Basingstoke Bolts are a team that we've kind of seen over the last 6, 9, 12 months emerge in the South, attend a number of tournaments with teams like Woking Whirlwind, who we don't think will be joining because they've been set up for a number of years. But there are room for these teams to join if they want to, assuming that some of them were part of that process at the start of the season just finished and didn't make the cut, didn't get sign up complete by the deadline. And we'll talk about that right at the end, I'm sure, as well. But we have 7 divisions in our first iteration of what could be the BAFA structure for Division 1 next year, split Scotland North East, North West, North Midlands, South Midlands, South East, South Central, and South West. And I think it's fair to say, on this assumption, before we discuss the teams, this has been created on the assumption that it would be most likely to be a 3-game round robin format in each division.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, we played in Div 1 last year, and South East and South Central, we played in the South East, was the only conference which had a cross conference, which to me is opening Baffa up to disputes about why did we do it, why did they not do it, blah, blah, blah. And I get why Baffa did it this year, but obviously Baffa has more time to plan for next year. So this is saying no cross conferences, 7 divisions. And the first thing when I was putting these teams together was the lack of teams in Scotland due to the success of teams in Scotland. That Scotland have got 4 teams in the National and 4 teams in the Premiership, leaves them, I think, with only 4 teams to fill a division, which means I think there is going to be no pure Scottish division, because to me, you've got to have 6 teams minimum for this to work.
Yeah, I completely agree. And in turn, that has forced, in a way, the bump up of Newcastle and Steel River as the most likely teams we bumped up into what would be the old Scottish division.
Yeah, especially because with the exception of, I mean, Aberdeen and Moray are quite far away, but Newcastle and Darlington, where Steel River are from, to me, they're further north in England than, say, Lancashire Bombers. So that's why I bumped them up. I mean, Charlotte, you, like you say, played with Samurai women.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on the return of Samurai?
So I was at CFL yesterday, Catalyst Flag League, and I was talking to Kyle, because Kyle was actually playing for the first time in a really long time. Kyle Taylor, if anyone doesn't know. And I sort of said that what they've done is, so they've lost a lot of players. I don't know if there was lots of obviously rumours and stuff last year, but he lost a lot of players due to, like, aging out isn't the right term, but a lot of them had like kids or other responsibilities, got married, moved away. A few of them moved away. You remember Bailey, Gaz, the little guy that just spun around all the time? Like, he got a promotion in a different place, and sort of actually I think stepped away from flag altogether. So like but what they've done is they've been really successful working with local, like, I think it's a local college or school system where they've got quite a few younger players now. So like yesterday we played with a couple who are a lot younger, sort of like late teens, early 20s, and they're rapid, and they're building that kind of thing up. They've got a couple of players that do play contact as well, who are injured quite a lot of the time, so that makes it a bit difficult. But I have a feeling they may come back. They're currently playing under the name of Leeds Ronin again in Catalyst, but they've got quite a few people on the roster. They've got a guy now who plays for GB netball, the tallest man I've ever seen in my life. So they've got some real good talent. I think it's just going to be a completely different Leeds team to what everyone's seen previously, and obviously Kyle has history with Baffa, so it just depends on whether he rejoins or not. But CFL is going really well for him, so it's really popular. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Interestingly about Scotland teams, though, when you were saying, is that so there's been a new women's team that's joined this year, Edinburgh Rogues. So they got the 2 EKP teams, Edinburgh Rogues and Aberdeen Snowcats, who fall under the Silver Cats banner. But from what I can gather is there's a lot of youth that will be coming up this year into, like, the Glasgow Hornets youth team are amazing, and I think a lot of them might be coming up. So they may have enough to form more variants of the Glasgow killer bees, more in killer insects, imagine, or something like that. So
yeah, I mean, there was it 5 all-stars were there like playing in the under-17s was on the same day as the Div 1 Baffa final. I think it was 5 all-stars were playing. So I mean,
I didn't do very well, I don't think. I think it was like 0 a lot.
Well, but it still shows that there is youth flag and youth players graduate. So
yeah, there's a lot of youth teams you don't see on here either. Like they've got a really good youth following, but don't have that transition into, like, they've only got youth teams, no like adult teams. So there could be like some space there as well.
I think that's one of the interesting things about flag generally as well, is that, you know, you talk about aging out being probably not the right word, because it's life changes, but there is an aging out in the true sense of flag football, especially not to Division 1 level, but there is an aging out. You don't hit, you know, you were saying before we started recording, Charlotte, you were just refereeing at the Masters tournament a couple of weekends ago.
Yeah,
people don't age out. There is still flag, and people still play flag pretty late into into what would normally be considered in sport to be aged out. So
I love that, and I love that about it. It's one of the very, like, when people contact us and say, "Oh, can I play?" We had a guy join this year with his son, so he was 16, and his dad said, "I'll come play with him," and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm 48," and we were like, "Yeah, we don't care, just come, like join in," and he's really like developed over time. It's been brilliant. So yeah, I mean, I totally get it, and I think it's one of the things. I think it's one of the most inclusive sports that there is, because like big, small, tall, old, young. I think it's just like kind of for everyone. So.
Yeah, exactly on that topic. We had the three of us were at a tournament in Guildford for the Chris Seal Family Day tournament that's run by is it Woking Whirlwind that run it? I know that the guy now plays for was coaching the new London Olympians team that have formed. Again, team could possibly feature in one of these South divisions, but they are very, very raw and very early
I mean, yeah, the reason I didn't include them is, as we played them and they said, no, we're not looking to join BAFA this year. It's the same reason I left out Heathrow Hurricanes, is they've been signed up to 2 tournaments in the South and have dropped from 2 tournaments in the South. So I don't believe that they're going to play. Whereas like Berkshire Renegades also held the friendly fixture day, which again shows their intent, that replicated a game day, basically 3 fixtures, no real tournament style to it. It was just 20-minute halves and let's get playing some flag. So yeah, I think they'll come back, and Basingstoke Bolts seem to have loads of numbers, which is why I included them. I mean, Danny, what's your thoughts on the Southeast and potential fixtures for the Wolfpack in there?
The Wolfpack, I think, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it would change, because the level of Div 1 essentially changes quite a lot with no Prem teams really coming down. Excuse the cat. It's kind of all up for grabs in a way. Obviously got, who is actually in it? Yeah, Berkshire Renegades, like you're saying, they've actually invited us to another tournament. It's on our anniversary game day, so we can't make that. So I think that is like 3 sort of tournaments they've tried to put on. 2 we've attended, 1 we can't make, but I see them coming. Hopefully they're excuse the cat. Hopefully they can stay around this year. Don't know too much about sort of Margate Krakens. I know they came to Turf War, so it's nice to see them if they're still existing. Kent Exiles, played them twice last year. They were both good games. They're a really good team. I know they've got a kitted team as well, so I think they've got a lot of experience from that. So yeah, it was the same with like sort of London Rebels B. They've obviously got the A team who they can learn a lot from, and that was their first year last year, I think. So there's a lot of room for improvement there, which they'll probably make that jump this off season. And yeah, I think that sort of division is definitely up for grabs, I think.
And like you said, I think Kent Exiles for me are one of the teams to watch. They developed so much over last year, plus their under 17s where they're on Div 1 final stage. So they've got potential to pull youth players up. I can't remember the name of the guy at QB, but really, really nice guy. But he is an absolutely solid QB. Like I can see him taking. Thank you. Yeah, I can see him taking the team quite far. And to me, they're out of those teams. There are the immediate standout teams. If that is the Southeast next year, to me, it's Kent Exiles that are leading the way in that division.
Yeah,
agreed.
And not only do I agree, but I think it's worth pointing out that I think the big thing from looking at that, anyone that's looking at that Southeast division for the first time, is that Waveney Wolves are the obvious outlier.
Yeah, get out of our division. No more Waveney. I'm sorry. They're mostly a lovely bunch of people, but Jesus, and we didn't. Thank God we didn't have to go to Waveney this year. The way the Oranges' schedule fell, they came to us, but we didn't go to them. But Longhorns Black had to go to them. It's a 3-hour drive from Lincoln. Yeah. It's through all like country lanes. It's horrible.
Not only that, you're 2 divisions away from them, Charlotte. So, because you got the South Midlands in between you as well.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, depends on where we get moved to, but it's horrid.
Yeah. How do you feel, Charlotte, about the only club to have a first and second team in Div 1?
It's Well, I was about to say I was going to talk about the Coldale Locomotives at some point, which I will. I don't know. I think the Longhorns Black. So people look at this and they go, "Oh, it's A and B team," and I think that's the hard thing is that people always mark us as A and B teams, but we didn't do it like that. The way we split was on ethos. So the Longhorns Black team players were players like, I want to go to a game day and I want to win no matter what, whether that means I get game time or not. It's the 5 best players on the field at any one time. And the Longhorns Orange kind of took the original Longhorns ethos, is that we're going out to win, but the whole point of flag football is fun. So if we're all here to have fun and there's like sort of equal reps all round. And I mean, we came out winless, which was disappointing, but it was kind of, we kept with what our goal was for the start of the season, and the season was like, oh, we'll go into the season with the same energy as we came out the season, and we did. And we had a rookie QB. We had four experienced players, but one of the experienced players took up QB, and then all the rest were rookies. So it was kind of like starting again. Black season was just disappointing. And I think they were they were sort of scraping. I think they had like, if you were looking at like when HNC were doing their breakdown, they had to do so many things to get on their final game day. And I think when they lost to the Honey Badgers, that just pushed them straight out. So they couldn't get to finals. So a bit disappointing, but.
So do you think if big ifs, that is your fixtures for next season, are you putting Longhorns Black as early division winners?
Yeah, I think they could do it. Absolutely. I think we're losing a couple of people this year from the Black team. This is if we keep with the same structure, as far as I'm aware we are. But we're losing a couple of players. But I think we'll recruit. We're having our rookie month next month, and we've already got 1 million people message us. So I'm hoping we'll recruit some more people. And we've also sort of we've started recruiting people from the Lincolnshire Bombers contact team, who have just been having horrendous injuries and then go, I don't want to play contact anymore because it hurts real bad. So we've had a few people come across, one being someone who's joined our team as a rookie, but really isn't a rookie. And he's our QB2 now. So it's good. And he's made a good relationship with the QB1. So it's nice. Yeah.
Should mention that Longhorns Orange QB is Charlotte's husband, by the way.
Yeah, my husband. He originally said he was going to do QB2, but then no one else really stepped up, so he did that season. So, and he's gone from strength to strength. So started out the first couple of game days with just bagels, and then we've come out at the end of the season like kind of really putting up a fight for a lot of teams. Like we came close against Northampton Titans White, who ended up going to finals, which is mad. So yeah, it's kind of good. But Coldale Locomotives are playing in CFL, and they have 1,000 people play for them. Literally, there's so many. I would not be surprised if they've got their second team is Calderdale Iron Horses. They've gone with the train theme. So yeah, I think they're probably bringing another team next season.
So there you go, third Longhorns team and second Calderdale team.
Well, yeah, I don't know if we'll get a third Longhorns team. If we get a third Longhorns team, they won't be playing in BAFA. We'll probably enter them into AFL or something if BAFA lets us.
Yeah, because there's like Honey Badgers playing both.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And if anyone wants to know, we'd probably be called Longhorns Orange White. Lincolnshire Longhorns White as our third team.
There you go. Already settled on a name.
Yeah, I know.
The one thing that sorry, guys, I'm going to jump.
No, go on, mate.
That I think we probably should talk about from that Southeast Division, bringing it back, because we haven't talked much about it, is the fact that the obviously our second team of the Wolfpack, and the team that we know pretty well and haven't spoken much about, but just trying to bring it full circle, like Charlotte, you were talking about with Longhorns Black. I think the Wolfpack is very much a second team. The ethos is, again, you're not expecting to get promoted, you're not expecting to win, but it's development. But I think that team was hampered, their development was slightly hampered, and this isn't at all me blowing my own mine and Gaz's horns, but we both obviously had transitioned from Wolfpack last year to Wolves this year, and the pack started the season without a quarterback. So we had one of our blitzers, linebackers, step in at quarterback for the season, Paul, who did a fantastic job considering he'd never thrown a ball in angst before the start of the season. But that team is a quarterback away from being significantly more competitive than they have been the last couple of years. They are verging on the precipices of being able to be successful, and that Southeast Division, I think Kent are still the team to beat. I completely agree with that, but I think there's going to be so much up for grabs if it is a 7-division round robin format, 3-game round robin format. there's so much up for grabs. And the one thing that I was going to ask you guys, I don't know if there is a rule from BAFA around the number of games that teams get as a minimum or as a maximum, in order to, because again, we had it this year. Our win percentage was hampered by the fact that we had a game day cancelled. There were a multitude of factors that went into that game day being cancelled. We didn't want it cancelled because we thought we'd come out of it better off than we went in, but it was cancelled. We lost the percentage split. Then meant that our losses were worth significantly more than our wins up to that point of the season. It meant we basically had to win out to even get into a shot of promotion.
That's so frustrating that BAFA hasn't worked that out yet, because we had the same thing in the women's season when we were playing. I don't know if everyone remembers that horrible red warning storm that we had in Liverpool last year with the women's season. We were playing against the Cheshire Huskies, at the Cheshire Huskies, and literally we played 2 games into 60-mile-an-hour bloody winds, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna have to cancel it," but they had no way to sort it. And the wind, we said that Leeds Samurai were like, well, win percentage isn't going to work out, we're not going to make it. Luckily, like you said, eventually we sort of did. Although this year for the women's season they have factored in a rain week, in inverted commas, for you to kind of schedule games. But it is frustrating when you're like, oh great, it's not even out, we can't even have no control over this, and it's going to affect the win percentage. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, so for me, what I tried to do was get as close to even numbers in each division. So that's why you see some teams which are geographically separated. Obviously, we're still on the first graphic here. The second one goes down to a 6-conference proposal. But I've still tried to keep those numbers even. I think the Midlands, Charlotte, correct me here if I'm wrong, Midlands division this year had 10 teams in it.
Why are you expecting me to know that off the top of my head? I'm going to have to think about them. This is the kind of thing I'm going to have to write down.
Because you're better
Longhorns
than that.
Orange, Longhorns Black, Huntsman A, Huntsman B, Waveney, Norwich Nomads, Northants Titans White, Nottingham Bears,
Badgers.
Nottingham Honey Badgers.
So immediately you're up to 9.
Yeah,
you're up to 9 off a quick calculus. We had 6 teams in our division, and Surrey cancelled towards the end, giving us 5 teams in our division. So that's why, in the world according to Gaz, I want to try and even up the leagues to make them as number even as possible. But I think you have to poll the teams. Sign up by this date with this many players, and you get a vote on: do you travel, or do you stay more local but potentially play more or less games than somebody else in the country?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing I heard about the Kings and Mariners, and I don't know obviously what you know, Gaz, is that obviously looking at them in the divisions, is they weren't going to join anything that meant they had to travel too far away from home, because a lot of them were had lots of family commitments, and they were like, we want to play flag football, but we don't want to travel loads, and BAFA makes you travel loads. So I'm wondering if that would be their kind of preventing to join the league.
I will fully admit that Kingsland Mariners were, out of those 5 teams that I proposed, Kingsland Mariners I think are the least likely to join. However, if I didn't include them, it meant putting Longhorns Orange or Black into a different division. So I just added another. Now, whether it's Kingsland Mariners, you could say Birmingham's got no team. So I'm just see Kingsland Mariners as insert a Midlands team.
The only other thing is Coventry Panthers B didn't enter this year into the Midlands division. So they joined last year and then they left this year. So they'd have to come back. But at the same time, they're going from strength to strength with their team. So I imagine they would come back. Obviously they won the women's division. They've got a lot of people. They've got good relationships with the Phoenix. Like obviously if they have people come up, I think they'd be good at like sort of saying, well, actually, no, you're not ready, go play here. So yeah, I think there's some potential. I mean, Nottingham Bears, as no surprise, that still has about 6 people that play for them, but then they still managed to not, beat the teams that are at the top of the division, their division. So Honey Badgers are the Honey Badgers. Yeah, there's loads of options for changes, but it's just I think it's all gonna depend on people's off season and how they recruit. I know obviously we've said this isn't going to be final, but like the Warthogs and the Giants have formed a joint team for the CFL, and there's some really good cross working with that. So I'm wondering if they'll either become one organization and have two teams again, or whether they will just keep split and they've just got a good relationship with each other. I don't know, or whether they'll expand even more. I don't. Although I know that Sheffield Giants have been struggling to recruit, I think, in recent times.
Well, to be fair, that'll be a discussion that we're going to come on to a little bit later about. There seems to be very localized, or flag seems to be localized, and missing out some very large cities in this country. That, I mean, before we get to that, I mean, Leeds Samurai are a perfect example. Leeds is a huge town with, lots of sport happening all of the time, but flag, since Samurai have folded, hasn't been able to get that same level of enthusiasm in teams. Compare that to Manchester, who've got more teams than they've almost got as many teams as London. It feels like Manchester have got.
Well, no, they've got more.
Exactly. Well, there you go. They've got more teams.
I'm wondering though if it's the way that people can travel. That people in Leeds have gone, okay, I can't play with the Leeds anymore, so I'm just going to travel to the next place, which isn't as far as it is maybe for some other areas. Yeah. So, but I mean, I still expected a team to form in the absence of Samurai and haven't, which surprised me.
I mean, yeah, the thing with Leeds is that obviously there was the fallout with Kyle, and is there that other personality to form a club in absence of Kyle? And I think that is why there was no Leeds team.
I think, Kyle, people say good and bad things about him. I really respect him a lot. I mean, he was my women's coach for a long time, and speaking to him yesterday, he just wants to grow the sport. That's why he wants to run CFL. He just wants to grow the sport and get more people involved. And the only reason they stepped back from Baffert, like I said, is because of the lack of personnel. And they said they didn't want to put the players through the amount of travel. Like I think they only had 8 players sign up, and they said they just didn't want to put people through the travel, or like you guys had where people just drop out, like, and kind of go, oh, I can't play this game day, or whatever. So yeah, just one of those things.
Yeah, that's fine. And just before we move on, I think the only 2 divisions we've not paid any attention to. I just want to highlight that the Northants Titans White, by this process, have slipped into the South Central, which seems really odd from face value. We'll talk about it more when we go to the next graphic, but is not something that is done just willy-nilly. We completely appreciate that they really don't fit in to that area, but at the same time, they don't really fit into a Midlands division if a number of those teams that we think will form or we think will come back do.
They were quite low on players again this year as well. In the division, like they had a couple of game days with like 6 or 7 people.
Yeah, but again, I feel like teams sign up at the start of the year when they have numbers, and those numbers do naturally dwindle over the course of the year. Theoretically, those teams you're getting subs in at the start of the season anyway. You form the team, and people decide that they don't have the time or the effort to commit to it anymore. But and then just finally, I think it's worth pointing out that Southwest division, if that were to be the case, is one of the stronger divisions.
It's disgusting. That's the disgustingest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it feels incredible. I mean, again, Plymouth Bolts, you feel sorry for, because not only is it probably the most travel that teams have to make to get there and to get to other locations, but they're a new team that are growing into the sport and seeing some of the scores that were put up this season. But to take a couple of those teams, that have been promoted out, and then still leave you with a Kings team, a Gators team, Exeter, Cardiff, and Frenzy, who we've seen at recent tournaments are definitely better than they have been in previous years now that they've got a settled quarterback, or at least a marginally settled quarterback. No disrespect to Paul, but I don't think he wanted to be playing quarterback the year that we played him. But that team is that division is stacked comparative to some of those divisions that sit directly next to them. They've definitely got more teams with more legacy than a lot of those.
Well, I think the other one is South Midlands. Like,
Yeah.
if insert new team into the South Midlands, welcome to Baffa. Oh, by the way, here's some absolutely solid clubs for you to go up against.
Yes, exactly. All right, let's move on to the second graphic that we put together with information that Gaz has provided, which I think is a conversation we were having internally, discussing. I think it was a question I posed to you, Gaz. Is it going to be that 3-team round robin? And if not, how does it look?
Yeah, so this one says you go back to cross division, that teams are willing to travel, and to me that's what Baffa do. As I've said previously, you ask the teams, do you want to travel or not? And this is we want to travel and we're prepared to cross conference option. And again, I've kept the divisions balanced, which has caused a different issue in this one, namely for Lancashire Bombers and for Bucks Wolfpack.
Yeah, I mean the Bombers being thrown into a Scotland Northeast division as not really
as not Scottish and not Northeast. Yeah,
is a that could be a lot of travel for that team. But
again, this doesn't happen if another Scottish team forms. So if there is another Scottish team that joins Baffa this year, then the Lancashire Bombers go into the Northwest.
Yeah, and it could be the case that the Scottish division is kept the same as it was previously this year. It was the division that had a 3-game round robin, if I'm correct. I don't think any other division did.
Well, but you can't do it in this one because if you have one team that does a round robin, then you're left with 5 divisions, so you can't cross conference.
No,
so
of course.
You have to cross conference in this one.
Yeah. I miss cross conferencing. I liked it. I think it was good to see a different set of people. I felt like I missed it this year. Just because you get a bit of a different feel. I think you become a better flag football player when you play more different people. Like, I just think it comes naturally. And I know it gets a lot of travel and I know people don't like that, but I don't know. I just think it has a special something about it. I mean, I didn't think that the first year that we played and we had to go to Edinburgh as the Longhorns, but it was a wicked weekend. We stayed away and we had a great time.
Exactly. Like, to me, that was like, welcome to Flag. We're doing a road trip up to Edinburgh. Doesn't that suck? So let's make a weekend of it. The one I've got a bigger dispute with is that Newcastle were in division that year.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, I've never had sunburn and have my clothes all soaked through at the same time. Well, thanks Scotland. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's nice, and I think it's good to see. It's one of the reasons we signed up for Catalyst, actually, because we get to play different teams that we don't usually play. And if we had this system where we crossed, we'd play some of those teams. So yeah, I think it's quite cool.
I mean, I think the competitive spirit that cross conference brings does weed out some teams that may be performing slightly above the station suggests if they've got a particularly tough division. I mean, we did have a cross conference this year, but we played in a division with VPP, who narrowly lost in the Division 1 final. We played them, we lost them in the first game. We didn't get to play them again, but we went on to win the plate. Conversely, we cross conference with Chichester Tiger Sharks, who ended up as the 4th seed or 3rd seed.
Well, they were the only representative from South Central.
They were, except for the fact that Reading came through. Reading were Diablos were the 13th seed and got promoted. And when you look at those game days, I mean, Chichester beat Reading both times. VPP beat us, but Reading beat VPP. We beat Reading, and Chichester beat us, but lost to VPP. Like, there was none of those teams won out against the other 3 that went to finals. And I think that generally put us in a pretty good stead. And all 4 of those teams, 2 automatically and 2 via the wildcard, were promoted this year.
Yeah, to me, again, I'm a firm believer in flag, go meet some people. So I'm all for travelling, but I mean, I'm quite back. Would I feel the same if I was the Lancashire Bombers? Probably not.
Or otherwise, I mean, Danny, your perspective there, a Wolfpack team that fit into a South Midlands because they're the most northern of the London-based teams, with trips to Waveney, Leicester, Coventry. I mean, we've got our own team there, but it's a long old trip.
We need a minibus in the budget for that. I'm kind of with you if we need I like the idea of the cross conference or cross division, whatever you want to call it. It's a lot of fun. To me, when you have a game day, the day is kind of a write off anyway. It doesn't really matter how long you're traveling until it gets to that point where you do need the overnight stay. Then I think that's when it's a bit different. We did that a couple of times when we were in Waveney's division. We went and stayed overnight, and it's a good laugh, but not everyone can do that, so it does make things trickier. But the idea, I like the idea of it. It makes more fun, and playing new teams just adds to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what you
playing the same team 3 times is a bit much.
It really can be, especially when one team in the division is notably better than any other team in that division. It does make that 3-game round robin format a little bit less beneficial. And then leading on from that, my kind of next point is, in either of these formats, the big question is, how will BAFA manage promotion and relegation from the Premiership next year? Because if they're going to go back to the old play-in style, then whether we've got cross-conference or not cross-conference, how do you determine which teams make that, especially if we have uneven divisions? If you're not, and you want to maintain something like we've had this year with a promotion or Manchester, the finals day, being part of that promotion equation, how does that work? How many teams are going to be promoted? How many teams are going to be relegated? We've only got 4 divisions in the Premiership, so there's a finite number of teams, and there's a lot of teams in Division 1 and a lot of teams that will be pushing for close to or undefeated seasons. And there is I think a good chance that there are 2 or 3 undefeated teams, and if we go back to the old format, one of those misses out on a chance at promotion.
I mean, I think the man to ask here is Danny, the guy who's been part of the last 3 Bucks Wolves promotion campaigns, 2 play-ins and a finals day. Which did you prefer?
I mean, I was playing different positions. It feels very different playing QB when promotion's on the line versus playing receiver when you've got Adam throwing to you and you're up 2 scores or whatever. I think there's a lot more. I kind of almost felt like more pressure in the play-ins. You're playing, I guess, theoretically harder opponents because you're playing Premiership teams. But maybe that makes it better because if there's a big skill gap between Div 1 and Prem, and you're not playing each other until you get promoted, then maybe just because you're top of Div 1 doesn't mean you're necessarily Prem caliber. So in that sense, it does work. But then, the number of divisions in Div 1 versus the Prem does complicate things a lot with who goes where and who's at the top and who's getting those games in the first place. Does complicate things a lot.
I mean, Charlotte, someone who plays for a team that gets pre-designated as a northern team each year, do you think there's space for a Midlands Premiership division? It would mess it up significantly, having 5 divisions. But obviously, Longhorns get pre-designated which division they'll join prior to the start of each season if they were to be promoted.
Yeah, I think it's hard. Everyone and this is what's nice about this, and I think it's sometimes I'm glad you've invited me, obviously, along, like you said, because you're a Southern podcast, but you've invited me, which Longhorns, which like I said, tend to get designated Northern. Is the Midlands was incredibly difficult this year. It was an incredibly difficult division, and obviously we've lost. What have we lost? not Nomads, Huntsmen have gone up. There was obviously the potential for the Honey Badgers and the Titans White potentially to have gone up. I don't know. I think there's, and the Black, like I said, I think there's absolutely potential for it. Like I said, it messes it up, but I think I'm not here to go, oh, they don't think about it. But when you think about it, if BAFA thought about how it works, and I just think that should be part of, and they may have, like, this should be part of their process of, right, we made these divisions, and then what happens if this happens? Because it's things that teams are potentially planning now for their goals for next season. Some teams will be on it already. It's something that I think they just need to think about. No disrespect to BAFA, obviously. I don't want to get your stream shut. You've invited me, and then I get your stream shut down immediately because BAFA's like, no, you're not allowed to talk about it.
I don't think that's the case. BAFA may have a plan and may have something that they're very clear on how they are going to manage the process. But if they don't, now is the time. There is a new division. The national has been created. There is a shuffle. There are 3 divisions now, not 2. So there has to be a clear, linear path for teams to follow, especially those that are in Division 1 now. I mean, you picked out 2 teams, Northants Titans White and Honey Badgers, losing, and I mean, we can pick out Serpents as well, losing in a wild card for a chance at promotion. They want to have that chance. They've got that aspiration. So they need to have a path to promotion. Whereas obviously this year we didn't have relegation in the Premiership. So there were some teams that definitely were resting on their laurels, knowing that they didn't have anything to play for.
I'm not saying that we had this conversation seriously. This is just more of a casual conversation amongst the team. But there was at one point where we were considering, in previous years, we had really good starts to the season, and we were considering, right, what if we, and it got to the point where, shit, if we get promoted, 1, can the club afford it? 2, will we lose a bunch of players because of the travel? When we still had Cam, Gaz, like, we were thinking, like, what are we gonna do? And like, it got to the point where we're like, would you throw a game to go, no, I'm not going to get promoted? Or would you, like I said, we never got to that point where we could even have that conversation. It was just more of a kind of, like, in that moment of, oh God, we've started 4-0. Like, what happens if this goes really, really well? It's something to consider for teams, and especially if, like you said, you've got teams that potentially, if there's no Midlands and they're going to be whacked in some random division, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. I was thinking more from the perspective that I see is that Bucks Wolves took 4 players to the BAFA Finals Day to Brit Bowl last year, and we had 10 on the day, didn't we, in the end? It was far easier to get people to agree to go to Manchester for Finals Day with something on the line.
Mm-hmm.
However, the flip side, it's a very valid point you make, Charlotte, and so I think it should be opt-in play-ins, that if you, let's say Longhorns Black, go and win everything next year, but you decide we'll lose too many players, well, therefore you opt out of the play-ins, but you still get to go and win a chance at winning the Div 1 title.
Yeah, I know some people might not like that, but I mean, some people, might not like that approach, but I just think it's something to consider. You know, I've been in 2 teams now where that's had to be an option, a consideration. Last year at the game day before the women's finals, the sadly Samurai ladies talked about throwing a game because of the amount of travel we would have to do to get to Scotland again, because the finals were in Scotland, and the amount of players that we had approaching towards the end. Because, like you said, you're traveling to place in the top 8, and I get that, but when you're traveling to play in Scotland over like 5 hours and you've got no quarterback, it wasn't the best feeling. But we didn't actively lose it. We went to go and win and everything, but it's just something to consider. I mean, the Women's League has been handled really well. I know it's way less teams, but obviously we were originally one big division, and then now we've got loads more teams. We split into North and South, and it has worked out. But like this year, I do feel sorry for the Northern Division because it's 4 Scotland teams, Cheshire Huskies, Sheffield Giants, and Manchester Titans. So that's going to be a horrible amount of travel for them. Whereas the furthest game day I think I've got to go to this year, because the Huntsmen are in the south, is London. So that's 3 hours away. So it's hard.
Yeah, and again, I'm sure BAFA have a plan or a process that they're going to go through when they decide what they're going to determine. I think there is a collective hope, wish that everyone that I've spoken to, and I'm sure you guys will agree, that the one thing that isn't replicated from the season just finished is how late that decision came, how many teams were interested, but for whatever reason didn't meet the cut, weren't included. But from what I remember and from what I remember being told, because I haven't been involved in the organisation of the team up to this point, but it was 4 to 6 weeks before game day one, roughly, that teams were given the information of what division they were in, who they were playing. That doesn't give recreational teams, because we are recreational teams, especially at Division 1 level, to plan higher venues.
Don't get me started, Adam. It makes me furious because we pay to play. If you think about it, we're paying to play a sport that we love. And I mean, my furiousness this year, which thank God I've been told is not going to happen this year, is the women's and the mixed season overlapped. If you managed to get to the finals in the women's, you were playing 3 weeks into the Division 1 starting. And the loads of response was, there's not that many female players. And that makes me furious. It makes me furious because in our division, the Leicester Huntsman B has a lot of female players. Obviously, I know I've not got many on my team, but obviously we've got a couple on our team. But all of us were playing. And Neil Weimer sort of said, look, girls, I want you to be like, while the division started, please don't get injuries, please protect yourself for finals. Well, that's not in the spirit of the sport, is it? Like, oh, just protect yourself because I don't want you to get hurt before we go to finals. It should never have happened. But like you said, you're getting told like 5-6 weeks before. It's just not in the spirit of it.
I think the only thing that in BAFA's defence issue is you've got continuity. Obviously, prior to the 23-24 season, it was suddenly Catalyst that were running it, and then all of a sudden, prior to the 24-25 season, it was suddenly back in BAFA's hands. Continuity allows for better planning, and that's what I've got. And I think the other thing is, to be fair to Joe, Paul, and the rest of the team that run it, is they were trying to. There was a lot of interest this year, and so it was really, really tricky from their point of view. They're doing their best to get these fixtures out. Again, I get what you're saying. I would almost release the schedules, though, based on divisions. As you know, the national teams are going to be there. You would hope the Premiership teams are going to be there. So release the national fixtures first, because they should be simpler to work out. Then release the Premiership, and then release the Div 1. However, it's got to be earlier. So like they had this year, 10 players signed up by day X. And I know Paul was tracking it, which teams had 10 players registered, which teams didn't. And there were teams that were there on 8-9 players up until the final minute of the registration window where they went over 10. Like, it's on us as a community to help support BAFA.
I 100%, sorry, I do 100% agree with you on that. Like, I know it was difficult. The thing is, I'm hoping that I can see the handover was poor, like, not from either side. I'm not saying who was at fault, but like, obviously, like I said, this year they've been running it for a year. So now you just hope that they continue. Like you said, if they know now the national, the Prem, they should be easier to organise already. It's then just the Division 1 inclusion. So yeah, I hope that they would be like, right, we're on it this time. And I know how, you know, Gaz, you've organised people before, and you can be like, pay your subs, sign up to Playways, blah, 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 blah. But it's not always the easiest thing. And the tech lets you down. We've just gone back to just go in the women's league. So we're not using Playways anymore. And it's easier to use, but then it's still got its faults of like, it wouldn't let me join because it was like, you're part of the Lincolnshire Longhorns. I was like, yeah, but I just want to play as Leicester Huntsman. It was like, no, you're part of the Lincolnshire Longhorns. I was like, I just want to play. I just want to play for Leicester Huntsman. But to be fair, the tech team are way quicker than Playways. Literally within 24 hours, they got back to me and they're like, we've sorted it. So hopefully that will become smoother if we use a new system or a new old system.
Okay. The last thing that I want to bring up, and we'll briefly discuss because we've definitely rambled, but that is entirely.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm a yapper. I yap.
Not at all. I think, again, the purpose of this podcast is that we don't know, and getting our thoughts and our ideas out there of what could happen at least gives some people in the community a little bit more of an idea, so that we as a community, again, can prepare our players, our new sign-ups for the kind of situation we're going to be in, and start gauging ourselves how that will work and whether our teams will be comfortable with one variant or the other. But Gaz and Danny, you put together this, Gaz requested, Danny obliged, putting together what is a rather hideous...
I don't want to put my name on this one, guys.
no.
That is entirely your name on the graphic, mate. I might have seeded the idea, but that is entirely you that produced this.
My name's in crayon in the top right. It's just
blue crayon. But I think, again, we thought it's important just to discuss that while we've got teams that we've discussed that we know could be interested, we can talk about the southern teams that we've played that aren't signed up to BAFA. There are 7 or 8 that we probably know of as a club and have played against. How there are 2 teams in Basingstoke is somewhat of a mystery to most people in Butts Wolves, and yet Birmingham doesn't have a flag team of any sort that I'm aware of.
Well, the Birmingham Lions women's teams just folded. They had a women's team literally joined last year, played a season, finished at the bottom, and then quit.
Exactly. But there are areas of growth within the sport that we don't know if they will be taken up, but are worth discussing. Obviously, I think Birmingham is the big one. We have briefly discussed Leeds, but I mean, Birmingham plays in every sport possible. I know that at least when I was at uni, the Birmingham uni team, Britball uni team, were one of the teams that were playing in the Premiership regularly and competing at the highest level. Now, those players very well may go on to play contact elsewhere, and I don't know if there's a high-level Birmingham contact team or if it is just that turnover of students, but there must be appetite there for someone to start up a flag football team. And I know we've spoken as well about the South Coast. I mean, I went to uni in Brighton. There are 2 universities, Brighton and Sussex, both play football, and I played contact football at Brighton, and we played against each other regularly, and loads of players went and joined Sussex Thunder, which is the local contact team, and loads of us were kids going, shit, we can't get battered around by 40-year-old men all week. We've got other stuff we need to do. So there's no flag team. Obviously, there is flag elsewhere in the South Coast if you go east or you go west, but in that kind of central perspective, there isn't anywhere between Chichester and Kent that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I mean, so we can talk about what cities aren't there. Birmingham, Leeds, Hull, Oxford, Cambridge, Brighton, Bournemouth, to me, are the big ones that immediately jump out. However, the flip side of it is we're talking about 2 teams in Basingstoke. Neil Henderson, absolutely amazing job that he's done with Chichester and South Coast Spitfires. Is that the way to go? Obviously, we know Jags in the NFL are pushing, are promoting youth over here. Look how well Chichester are doing because they've got the youth set up aligned with South Coast Spitfires. 2 teams in Basingstoke, but Chichester's got 3 teams, 1 team in each division, and it's got a youth set up to feed people into the right level. They've reaped the benefits of it with George and what's his name, the speedy little receiver coming
that's
through.
His name now, just speedy little
receiver. And I mean, we can talk about Larry and Harry, who were.
Sorry, that sounds. Are you telling a joke? Is this a joke?
No, it is 2 guys that used to play at Surrey Stingers. Again, started up coming out of uni. Larry and Harry were the cause of that team. Couldn't quite get that team working.
Sorry, I can't believe they're called Larry and Harry. It just sounds like a joke. I'm sorry, Larry and Harry. If Larry and Harry listen, I'm sorry.
They are not called Larry and Harry. That is an inside Bucks Wolves joke of the fact that they were two receivers that ran goes on the outside and burnt the shit out of Gaz all of week 1.
Oh, sorry, you salty Gaz for being beaten.
No, I mean, more the point is like, so Surrey tried it, like coming out of uni. It didn't quite work. Two of the guys, the centre and one of the receivers has gone to Reading and the other guy's gone to Chichester. It's one of those, isn't it? They tried it, didn't quite work, but there's got to be some opportunities of growth in there that we're not aware of.
Interestingly, I know. Obviously, you look at that and go, "Oh, there's 2 Nottingham teams," but the 2 Nottingham teams aren't that well stacked for the size that Nottingham is. So obviously, like I said, Nottingham Bears, that they were saying about they're struggling to recruit new players. And the Nottingham Bears, they started the season strong with kind of like a good sort of 15, 16 people turning up to a game day. But towards the end, they were really struggling. And you've got like a women's uni team, but they've never managed to pull together a mixed one. It just seems really strange. Once again, it's like no one can kind of pull it together around that area. I know that a few people from Nottingham have been drawn to Leicester. Because obviously Loughborough's not too far away and they've got a great place to train. But I don't know, it's just really interesting. I'd suggest, to try and join the gap between Waveney and Lincoln, it would be lovely to have more teams on there, but I can see that that's just farmland, and there's no one there. So other than Norwich, who've obviously now been promoted. So yeah, it's difficult.
The Newark Newts are going to step up and perform.
But yeah, it's good. But yeah, no, I like the map. I don't hate the map.
Well, it serves its purpose.
Danny, I think the map's great. I think you and Luther should be happy with the map.
Thank you.
Yeah, after Gaz bullying you for it.
That map will not be going on social media. That map will be binned the moment that the call is over.
I think the thing that's missing is we decided not to complete it. We should have put pins for every flag team that exists to show where those growth opportunities potentially are. But we decided to stop at this glorious version of the map.
Right. Has anyone got any final thoughts, comments before we move to the wrap up?
I'd like to say, if we're right in any level, you heard it here first. If we're wrong in any level, we did say we'd probably be wrong. So I think that's good. It's a good way to start.
Oh, you've covered the wrap up.
Sorry.
No,
like I said, I love to yap. So you won't have me back now. You'll be like, she doesn't stop.
But it's again, it's an idea. It is what we think the club, and we will be doing a similar episode in the not too distant future on the National and the Prem, which is far simpler. But starting with Division 1 because it is so incredibly complex. Because no one has any idea who will sign up, what format those teams will be, whether teams will merge, whether teams will pop out of thin air. Okay, so that is episode 2 wrapped up for the South Side. Thank you for those of you that have made it this far. Again, I hope that this episode gives some of those teams that are in Division 1, thinking about joining Division 1, a little bit of information about what they can expect, the kind of decisions that may or may not be coming their way. BAFA may have already sorted all of this, but we don't know. So we can put our thoughts out there, see what sticks, and as depending on what happens, we'll either look like geniuses or we'll look like idiots, in which case it was Gaz's fault. But thank you for joining again. If everyone has, if you have got to this point, you've listened all the way through, if you aren't already following us on social media, so on Instagram, on Spotify, or on YouTube, it's at the South Side Flag, which we would appreciate anyone jumping on. If you've got thoughts from anything that you've been through today, feel free, drop a comment, reach out. We're trying to get some sort of engagement, and we do want to do more episodes with guests like Charlotte. So if you are interested in jumping onto an episode to talk about something in particular, or to come in to give a perspective once the season starts, please give us a shout, let us know, and we can bear that in mind. But thank you, Charlotte, for joining as our first guest, episode 2. We appreciate you taking the time out this evening, joining us, chatting through, giving a different perspective to 3 of us that all still live in the south.
Yeah, I was born there. I was born in the south. Not in Buckinghamshire, and I was born there. I'm not even following the south side. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to follow it whilst I'm on the call with you. If not, I'll just follow it straight after. But no, thank you for having me. I'm really glad. Like I said, Lincolnshire always gets put in the north, but we're smack bang in the Midlands. So I really appreciate it. And I hope you'll have me back and that people like it. Or you can have Brett, like I said, next time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure we will have you back, because I'm sure that there won't be that many people that are so enthusiastic about joining us to talk about flag.
I just love flag football.
We all do, and that's why we're here. I think that's both the joy and the curse of the sport that we play. We love it, but there's very little else any of us will do with our free time. The next episode will come out hopefully in a few weeks' time, 3 to 4 weeks, and the intent of that episode is to do a similar style as we've done today, but talking about the new national division and what will be a new look Premiership division, although there will be far fewer questions around how that will look, because those teams are set and defined, and we know the format. We think we know the format that they'll be playing in. The only question will be, where do certain teams fit into that structure, and what that means, and a little bit more of a preview as to who are the clear dangerous teams that people will be looking out for. But thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, whatever format you have enjoyed us. Thank you to Charlotte for joining. Thank you to Gaz. Thank you to Danny for sitting in with me today. And we will see you next time.
Bye.